Amazing. Daniel, welcome to the podcast. How's it
Thanks,
going?
man. Yeah, doing good. I was looking forward to chatting and catching up.
Sounds good. So, give people a little bit of an intro about who you are, what you do. We'll talk about all the stuff that you do, so we don't need too much context. Give us just the groundwork.
Yeah, I'll give you guys the you and the audience the nutshell. So about 5 years ago, I moved to the U.S. From Peru originally, even though I'm from Venezuela. I was living in Peru. And it was a big kind of reinvention phase for myself because completely different country, new language. Long story short, I started reusing or using X or Twitter again. I kind of curated my feed after reading, funnily enough, Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans, and then Tim Ferriss led me to the Naval rabbit hole, and like reading Naval Ravikant led to me like connecting with other people who were also writing online, sharing their ideas, kind of sharing what they were learning. One day, this guy who was also kind of getting started with the writing thing at the same time, his name is Dickie Bush. But he put out a tweet saying, "Who would like to do a 30-day writing challenge with me?" I was like, "Oh, that sounds pretty good. That's kind of what I'm trying to do here." So I joined. Turns out the thing was called Ship 30 for 30. It was awesome. I had an amazing experience. The next month after doing the first challenge, when he upsold me on doing the next one, I said yes, take my money. And then after doing that second one, once again, the experience was awesome. And I was like, well, I mean, this thing is clearly growing. For context, the very first cohort that I did only had 50 people, and then the next one right after that had 100. And so immediately after a month, there was a 2x increase. I was like, this is going places. I can see this guy needing help at some point. Let's cold pitch him on helping him. So how I didn't know exactly how I could be helpful, but I knew I wanted to. And that's basically how I cold DM my way to becoming part of the team. Back then, there was no team. You could say, yeah, the first team member employee. And then 5 years later, here we are, still working with both of them. Cole, who's the other co-founder, and Dickie Bush. And so right now, obviously, over the years, my role has evolved a lot. But right now, I'm the head of marketing at the company and kind of overseeing and running all of the different and big marketing initiatives that we have across our product verticals.
That's awesome. I didn't know your story before this. That's really cool, and I didn't realize you moved to the U.S. so recently too.
Yeah,
So you were part of like one of their first cohorts. It was the first cohort of Ship 30
the
for
very
30.
the very first one. Yeah, it wasn't really a program. It was just Diki and like 50 of us in a Slack channel just spamming each other our atomic essays.
That's awesome. A lot of people will know Ship 30 for 30 and the new business they started in the past maybe 2 or 3 years, Premium Ghostwriting Academy.
Yep.
But just for context, Ship 30 for 30, I think they've talked about that being a seven figure business,
Mm-hmm.
probably not. And then you know, Cole and Dickie have talked about Premium Ghostwriting Academy being a $5 million plus per year business. So just to give people a sense of scale
Yep.
of what they're doing. Those guys both have a lot of audience online too. But you're their head of marketing, but you've also built your own stuff too. You've built
Mm-hmm.
a LinkedIn following, a newsletter. You might be doing some other stuff I'm not even aware of totally. But just tell us about what you're building around, I guess it's your personal brand or side
Yeah.
business, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, you could call it that. So it's funny, right? Because for the longest time, our primary program helped people kind of write consistently and build what we call a daily writing habit. And yet, personally, I would struggle for a long time to publish consistently. But last year in July, exactly around a year ago, I decided to solve that once and for all. And so I kind of set some constraints, got my shit together, and I've been publishing daily on LinkedIn ever since. And so obviously in the process of learn kind of what's working, what's not working, I've doubled down on what's working. And so in the process, I've been able to grow an audience for myself. I went from, I think I had like 600 followers back when I started writing on LinkedIn last year. Now I'm at like 23,000 at the time we're recording this. And around this, or along the way, I've also, because I'm an email guy just like you, I've also kind of been looking for the different ways to leverage that LinkedIn growth to also grow my email list, which was also very small back then when I started writing on LinkedIn last year. But yeah, so that's kind of where I've been polishing most of my content. I also run like on the side an email marketing agency, kind of specialized in email sequences and launches and newsletters. And lately, or more recently, I also launch a paid newsletter. I haven't done a great job of kind of promoting it yet. I'm still kind of working out some of the details, but yeah, those are kind of some of the things that I have going on right now.
Amazing. Let's talk about your growth first. I want to talk about Ship 30 and PGA later, because I think both are going to be super interesting to the audience and other stuff too. But how? So that growth on LinkedIn in a year is very impressive, especially for what you're covering, which is, you're building a niche, high value, more B2B audience. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a million followers, but like this
Yep.
audience is way more valuable than most people who have 100,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
It's more valuable than most audiences, is what I'm trying to say. But like, what is like the 80/20 of what actually worked? Just as far as audience growth and followers, we'll get into like list building later. Like, what
Yeah.
actually worked to get you there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've written a couple posts kind of reflecting on this, but I think if I had to really compress it and distill it down to a handful of things, the first one, which is completely unsexy, but consistency. I've published every single day for the past year. Most people don't even do that, so
Is
obviously
that 5 days
it's
a week or 7 days?
seven.
Wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, 7 days. I mean, and truthfully, I would be publishing more if it wasn't for LinkedIn. I still like there is some LinkedIn, what do you call it, like conspiracy theory. Some people say that you can post more than once. Other people do it and it's fine. And so there's some kind of unclear boundaries around what the ideal publishing cadence is. But like at the very least, I think once per day is great. But yeah, I've been publishing daily ever since. And then the other thing that I think is a little bit more tactical is just doubling down on whatever is working on the platform at the moment. And I can give you a more specific example. So back in probably September, October last year, I started seeing a few people experiment with viral giveaways on LinkedIn, which I thought was very interesting because the viral giveaway strategy is not like a new thing. Every single platform has their version of a viral giveaway. I think you are also like a big Twitter guy. Back in the day, giveaways would be amazing on Twitter. And so I started to see some of that happening on LinkedIn, and I thought it was interesting. And I've had all of this experience building lead magnets, and so I was like, well, let's give it a try. So I did a couple of those. Didn't do as well, but I was still kind of, I could see some potential, and so I kept trying. And basically, over the, since then, around September, October, I've done like 30 plus of them, and that's like 70 of between 70 and 80% of my growth, both on the LinkedIn side, but also on the email list side, has come from doing that consistently and like at a with a very high level of intensity. But those are kind of some two initial things that I can share. Happy to expand on anything.
Yeah, I want to talk about those a little bit. We've talked a little bit. We sometimes we call them comment to get giveaways,
Yep.
but same concept. I think you're doing these really well. I think one of the best ways for people to learn is to look at examples. So your LinkedIn will be linked down below in the YouTube description or podcast, and people can just go through your past posts to see those. But the idea is, you'll explain it better than I can, but like, you basically give away something,
Yes.
and to get that thing, you ask people to comment on the post.
Yes.
They comment, you send them a DM. Sometimes even maybe 24 hours later, some people might even like reply to the comment with the link to make sure they see the link, so they sign up.
Yes.
And then you don't just, this is the important part if you want to grow your list of this, is you don't just send people a link to the thing, you send people a link to a landing page where they enter their email address to access the thing.
Yes. And then ideally, if you want to take it to the next level, you also have your little welcome sequence. And then you are also publishing newsletters consistently. You continue to nurture them, because otherwise it's just email addresses sitting in a spreadsheet. And then, after a few weeks, they're dead.
Yeah, so you need to have the funnel afterwards to convert them into
Yes.
revenue, which we'll probably talk about later. But maybe like for someone who wants to do those types of giveaways, do you have any recommendations or things that worked for you?
Yeah. So it's interesting because that's the thing with this kind of more cutting edge tactics, which is, you know, posting every day will never go out of style, but some of these more timely tactics might, go out of style and might stop working. And so I don't have enough data yet to say that giveaways aren't working anymore on LinkedIn specifically. I think they still are. They just have gotten way harder because everyone, up until probably January 2025, they were still kind of a little bit of a novelty, and there were relatively few people doing them and executing them well. But more recently, over the past 6 months, we're recording this in July. So over the past 6, 7 months, people have gotten more and more aware that what they are and how they work. And so LinkedIn for a while, like, I think it's gotten a little bit better, but like back in May, June this year, everyone was doing them. And so obviously that created saturation, but that also meant that the bar to make them work now is way higher, And so, not to say that, my, or the league magnets that I was posting every single week were not high quality, but just because all the noise that there is on the platform is just way harder to make them work, even if they're very high quality. Now, to answer your question, kind of give people something tactical here, I think you can still execute a version of this tactic in a slightly different way. So these tactics specifically, which is kind of a variation, or that's how I think about it, I call it the two-step. And so it's a mix of a traditional value post where you just share, education and something for free with people, and the little giveaway technique. And so what you do is you write your entire post, again, educational, valuable post, but then at the end, you have a CTA that instead of saying, click on my link to subscribe to my newsletter, you say, leave a comment with X, Y, and Z word, and I'll send you a resource that's related to the topic that I just talked about, basically going deeper on it, And so it's kind of, it's again, a mix of, or a hybrid of the best of two worlds, the proven, post valuable educational content every day, and the more, tactical giveaway, and it works extremely well. In fact, funnily enough, I've had a few of those lately that have performed better than some of my like actual giveaways, which is funny. But yeah, that's been working pretty well for me. And if folks want to see an example, you can scroll through my LinkedIn feed and find a couple of those.
Yeah, literally just the post today. It's about, let's say, email marketing, and then the call to action at the end is PS. I put together a sweat file of 4 welcome email examples and templates, so it's easier to write yours. Want to check it out? Comment, swipe, and I'll send you a copy. And yeah, that's just not the whole thing, but just the call to action part of it. So that's I love that you shared that, because I've been seeing you do this. I wasn't quite sure how you thought about the strategy. And it's a good happy medium, because like if all you're doing is these like giveaways, and every post is essentially asking for something, this is a way to like add value and ask and receive after that. And yeah, it just differentiates yourself, so you're not another person doing another giveaway. I think maybe for the audience, I wouldn't say never, and not that Daniel's saying this, but I think still there's the plain old post just about the giveaway. I'm sure that can still work, but I think it's a great idea to try both. And I think like what's good about this is it's just more effective than saying, hey, PS, I put together this thing, click the link in my bio to check it out, or find the link in the comments to subscribe, because that just creates more friction. Yeah. People have to do the work to click and then find the link. And LinkedIn UI is kind of confusing. Like, you don't always know. The link in the comments gets hidden. The link in your bio is just so busy because there's so much inside a LinkedIn profile and bio. But just commenting a word takes 2 seconds, and they get the thing, immediately after doing that. So I like it.
I agree. Can I double click on something that you kind of hinted at real quick? So the other thing is that depending on how you're monetizing, I know some people, run or have newsletters, but they like sell services or sell high ticket things. If that's the case for you, and you need to, or you want to get people not only on your email list, but also on a sales call at some point, this tactic is great, because when they comment, then that kind of triggers you to then send them a DM with the asset that you promised. But then that initial DM also becomes the kind of the opening for a conversation that could turn later into a sales call, or some like more of a deeper, more serious, if you will, kind of sales conversation with those prospects.
Absolutely. It's amazing for that. One question that I'm sure a lot of people are thinking is, like, do you automate this? Because sometimes your post will get hundreds of comments for the thing. How do you handle that?
Yeah, well, I automated with human leverage. So the caveat is that LinkedIn is not, and this is one of the things that I kind of find annoying. Back to my point earlier of these working at some point very well on X. On X, you could completely automate it and it was fine. You wouldn't get into any trouble. But LinkedIn is not as automation friendly, and so I've been putting like before recording, we were talking about like how much time and effort it takes to create content, and so you want to make sure you're not jeopardizing your accounts, and the ideally you want to optimize for people to and for that content to live for as long as possible. And so I don't want to jeopardize my LinkedIn account, and so if doing any sort of automation means potentially getting banned, I'm not going to do it. And so my whole solution has been, obviously at first, I did the things that didn't scale and I did it all myself. At some point when I saw there was traction, I basically hired somebody. Transparently, it's my younger brother. I hire him as my content assistant, and so he helps me with a bunch of different things. But one of them is like the delivery of all um these different like giveaways and lead magnets that we're running.
Yeah, and that's the way. I haven't done the strategy as much as I should, but I've done it with a virtual assistant, and I think that's the way. Like, you do it yourself until you can't, and then you have somebody, assistant, virtual assistant, content assistant, help you with those things. And it's pretty straightforward task for them to do. Do you use even like a scheduling tool? Are you one of those hardcore people who just post straight to the platform, no Taplio or whatever scheduling tool is out there?
At some point I was using Typefully, and I originally was using Typefully because they had like LinkedIn and X, but I stopped posting on X. Nowadays though, I literally just use the LinkedIn scheduler, and really is because I wasn't getting a lot of value from just using a fancy tool. I was, and it's funny, they've gotten super expensive now. They're charging some of them, I think Tableau charges like $60 per month, which, relatively to what you can generate with your audience is not a lot. But anyway, I just use the native LinkedIn scheduler, and that works great. I haven't had any issues using that, and since I'm only posting on LinkedIn at the moment and not posting on any other platforms, that's I'm just trying to keep it simple.
Yeah, I forgot LinkedIn had that, but it's handy that they have that because most platforms don't. Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, $60 a month is not a lot, but I think a premium plan can be more. And then if you want to add like seats for your team,
yes,
then you're spending $160 a month on a tool that basically just schedules your posts. Like, they have other features, but I never really found those super useful.
Me neither. And truthfully, like another big kind of nuance of doing LinkedIn well is that you want to do carousels kind of often, and like most tools don't support carousels. It's like, I'm paying for this tool, it doesn't even support one of the formats that's the most popular format, and so what am I doing here?
Yeah, for those who don't know, sometimes LinkedIn, I believe it calls a carousel a document post, but that's what we're talking about. We talk about carousels. Is just time of day posting matter? You have any thoughts on that?
I think no, I don't think so. I think the more important question and variable is just posting at the same time yourself every day, just so you can kind of almost like train people to know when to expect content from you, and just find a window or like a time slot that works and is realistic for yourself, and just stick to it as often as you can.
And are there, so outside of the fundamentals, quality content consistently, are there any other more growth hacky things that you've done on LinkedIn that have helped you grow your audience there?
Yeah,
not email lists. That's a kind of a separate thing, but just like audience.
Sure. Yeah, I have a couple. So let's see. And by the way, I love growth hack or grow hack. So happy to nerd out on this stuff. Let's see. So, well, okay, a couple things, especially if people are starting like from scratch or they have like a small audience. So, one of the beautiful things about LinkedIn is that you can essentially grow your audience at will because you can send connection requests to people, unlike other platforms like X, for example, where you just follow somebody and that doesn't mean anything in terms of them following you. But if you send a connection request to people and they accept your connection request, they automatically become a follower as well. So, which is, if you think about it and you're very intentional, that essentially means that you can find your ideal reader, send them a well-crafted message, and if they accept the message, you're basically getting them to become a follower. And so you can send 200 of those per week. I think you might need to be on premium to send as many, but even if you're on free, you can send between and I might be butchering the number, but probably between 30 and 50, which is still, 50 of your ideal readers per week. That's an amazing, kind of, especially if it compounds, it's an special kind of growth rate. And so that's the very first thing that I would say. Most people don't use it, and sure, it's a little bit labor intensive because you have to actually go and send the thing. But back to our point, if you find the copy that works and the tactic or the methodology that works, then you can get some leverage and accelerate that process with some help. Do you have any? I have like a dozen more.
Keep going,
but
okay. I don't. Yeah.
Feel free to interrupt me. Okay, that's one. The second one, and I'm giving away secrets here. I'm giving away the sauce, but it's okay. We'll share it. Another thing that I found very interesting, and it's funny because a lot of these tactics I kind of came up with as a result of being like a complete outsider to the platform. I like, there were things that I thought were interesting or like weird, and I would kind of double click on them and find a way to leverage them. And so, for example, when I was starting, I noticed, again, it's kind of similar, connected to the previous point, but people can, in addition to you sending connection requests, you can also receive connection requests from people. And I was like, when I started, I was like, oh, interesting. I'm getting these connection requests in addition to people following me. That's interesting. I wonder, what can I do to like leverage these for growth? And so one day I came up with this idea. I call it the welcome DM. And so I was like, might as well send this, these people are sending me a connection request. That shows a lot of intent to me. I could send them a welcome DM and basically introduce them to my content. And so I put together a little script, basically just thanking them for the connection, and then listing out 3 of my best pieces of content, LinkedIn content specifically, from that month. And so right away, on top of kind of building that connection with people, and also like a little what do you call it, conspiracy theory. Some people say that whenever you engage with someone over DMs, they're more likely to see your content on their feed, which, it's kind of, if it's true, I don't know if it's true, but yeah, it makes sense. But if it's true, then this is another additional kind of benefit to using this tactic. But long story short, I started sending anyone who would send me a connection request, I send them a welcome DM with a little thank you note and a curation of my 3 best posts from the past month. And it has been incredible because at the very least, people thank me. But some people sometimes like go and read all of the email, not the emails, the pieces of content, and then they find another post, and then the algo shows or notices that they are consuming my stuff, and then shows my content again to them when they sign back on LinkedIn the next time. And so it creates kind of a little virtuous cycle and like flywheel that I think is very, very interesting. And again, all it takes is a little bit of intentionality and some human leverage.
I love that. I think everybody should do that. One other thing I wanted to ask you about is engagement. So we originally talked about the viral giveaways or comment to get, and that's kind of a way to hack engagement by incentivizing people to comment. I've talked to a lot of people who are quote unquote big on LinkedIn. Maybe they have 100,000, 1 million followers on LinkedIn, and all of them seem to do, I don't know what you call this. Maybe you have a better name for the idea, but like, tit for tat commenting, where they have like it's not always a group message. Sometimes just like a one-on-one DM or Telegram chat, where it's just like 20 other accounts who have somewhat similar content and they just comment on each other's stuff. And usually it's their assistants commenting on each other's stuff. Does that work? Have you tried that? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I actually have had that happen like very naturally and organically with a few friends. And so, yeah, there is a handful of people that if you kind of follow my stuff on LinkedIn closely, you're going to see that every single day, I personally leave a comment on like 2 or 3 people. And I do think, actually, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I do think that's one of the best things you can do, because it's natural. it's reciprocal. It's a win-win for everyone. And you also, it has this element of accountability where at some point, if you start to do it with a handful of people, and one day you want to skip, especially in the beginning, right? You want to skip a day, or you're busy and you don't want to post, then it's like, oh, but so and so are waiting for me to post so they can comment on it. And it has this little accountability kind of forcing function as well, and I like it. But yeah, I have done it with a handful of people. I think it works, and I think it's one of the best things that you can do at the very early stages.
Yeah, and I think it should just evolve naturally, like you mentioned. Like you don't need to pay to be in some silly
Yes,
group where you
100%.
piece other stuff and comment on it. It's just people who you like their content, they reciprocate, and you do as well.
Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, just to double click on that, like sometimes that's literally how it happens. You find somebody whose content you enjoy, you comment on their stuff for a week with thoughtful comments, and they start to comment on your stuff too. And sometimes one of those people, actually, in my case, we ended up becoming like good friends. Not only that, we also started to like build things together, and we have done like a bunch of programs and offers together over the past 6 months. And so there's more than just the engagement that you can get from this kind of relationships.
Absolutely. Let's talk about list growth from LinkedIn. I mean, you kind of covered the main thing. You said 70% list growth is from the viral giveaways.
Yes.
Any other basically deplatforming, so getting people off of LinkedIn onto your email list? Any other tactics that have worked for you?
Well, I mean, the interesting thing about some of the tactics that I've shared so far is that you can use them both to grow your LinkedIn presence or audience, but also to grow your list, right? So, for example, the welcome DM example or tactic, if you swap the 3 LinkedIn post links that I mentioned and you just replace that with a lead magnet, then suddenly the same tactic becomes a list growth technique, you know? So that's one that I really like. Another one that, like, this is kind of obvious, but like a lot of people don't do it, but like LinkedIn gives you this ability to have, they call it a custom button, which is basically kind of the CTA that shows up underneath your name whenever you post. I think this is a paid premium where you have to be on LinkedIn Premium to use that. But if you don't use Premium and you don't have that ability to kind of have that button there, I think it's one of the easiest upgrades that you can make, because basically what it does is every time you post under your name at the top of the post, people can see a button that says either visit my website or visit my newsletter or book an appointment. And the nice thing is that it's almost as powerful as having a direct link in the post, minus any potential penalty that LinkedIn, might kind of impose on you for deplatforming people, And so I think that's very, very underrated.
Yeah, I don't see enough people. I should do this more where obviously the comment works, but also you could just say click view my newsletter in quotes to get the thing, or click visit my website to book a call. And that link is at the top of the post. It's at the top of your profile. And like people kind of know what it is because a lot of people, at least who publish content on LinkedIn, all have that custom link. And there's only like 5 options: view my newsletter, view my website, so maybe handful more. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like universal language where people should know where to click, essentially.
Yep. But yeah, so that one, I mean, if you're not if you're not linking directly or doing a CTA for people to comment and then get something in exchange, I think that's literally one of the highest leverage ways to deplatform people, and you just have to mention it. One thing, and this is kind of still related, just a small tangent, but I think it's very tactical and valuable too. I was actually, so on PGA, and I'm sure we're gonna dig into PGA stuff later, but lately we've been experimenting with paid ads, and so we've been educating on what it looks like to actually do paid ads at a high level. And so one interesting learning that I had last week actually was how the people who are very, very good at doing ads, especially like video ads, they usually weave in several CTAs throughout the entire ad. Most people just have their hook, then the body of the ad, and then they CTA at the end, and that's it. The problem with that is that most people don't make it to the end. And so if you have, or you weave in CTAs throughout the ad, then you're increasing the odds that, more people take you up on it and they take action. I think the same kind of lesson or framework applies for doing content, and this is mostly a reminder to myself, but like you can also weave in those CTAs more, more frequently throughout your post, especially if you're doing like a long form post. And I've actually seen some people do that with their carousels, like whenever they're building or sharing a long carousel with like, I don't know, 15, 20, even 30 pages, you can weave in slides throughout that remind people of the CTA that you want or the action that you want them to take.
Yeah, I think that's a really underutilized but effective thing, especially you're doing a 15 slide carousel. Why not have one call to action in the middle and one at the end? Normally normally most people don't have any call to actions. But most people just have one at the end. And
Yes,
so by adding an extra one, it's in a tasteful way. It's going to help you. So I like
totally.
that strategy too. Cool. Well, let's talk about there's so much stuff, but let's talk about Ship 30 and PGA. It sounds like Dickey and Cole have kind of shifted the business more towards Premium Ghostwriting Academy over the past year or two. And Ship 30 is still very successful, but it's not like the main thing anymore. Is that accurate?
It is, or it was accurate until last month. You know, things have changed. Or we are not pivoting necessarily, but like we realized after. So the last cohort that we ran was back in January 2024, and at the time I think it was the right decision because we really needed to focus on building the foundations and all the different systems and the marketing for PGA. But now that the PGA has matured and is like way, and we have a big team and we have heads of departments and we have all these automations and things kind of working on autopilot, we have more time and bandwidth to do what we couldn't do back in the day, which was running both things simultaneously. And so actually earlier this month we decided to bring back our Ship 30 cohorts. So for context, ever since we did that last cohort until now, what we did was we kind of evergreen the program. And so we had like a self-paced version of the program available for people, but we have decided to start running cohorts again. And so actually right now we're in the middle of the onboarding week of our newest cohort. And we're going to be a couple more throughout the rest of the year. So it's kind of, Ship 30 is kind of back.
I love that. Yeah, see, latest cohort July 14th, which is slightly after or slightly before we're recording this. That's cool. So I imagine, sounds like the effectiveness of cohorts, at least for this program, seems like the most the method that can generate the most revenue and most student success long term. Like, do you feel that way?
I think kind of what you're hinting at is that it can be, and it has been an amazing lead flow source, because it's, and just also for context for people. So our Premium Ghostwriting Academy is not only is a higher investment, but it's also a way more specific kind of value prop for people who specifically want to monetize their writing skills by becoming ghostwriters. Whereas Ship 30 is like a way more top of funnel, way more broad program where anyone who wants to share their ideas online and want to do that consistently by publishing content on the internet can join that program. And so the beautiful thing though is that, and I think you have talked about this in the past too, but usually your best customers or the easiest people to sell on something are the people who have already bought something from you, And so Ship 30, since it attracts such a wide variety of people, it became an amazing way for us to over deliver and show them how epic our programs can be at a relatively or at least at a more affordable kind of entry point and price range. And then once they kind of are in our ecosystem, they have like first they have way more trust and more confidence in like our ability to kind of keep our promises, but also they kind of it becomes kind of a no-brainer for them to join the next program if that's kind of the career path that they're looking for.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. So it sounds like there's more synergy where, Ship 30 can be like a front end in many ways.
Yes.
Lower price, broader appeal, and then people can ascend to PGA, which is higher price, more niche appeal, but both super valuable, and they can synergize more, which is kind of like a classic, info coaching education model. That's great. And like Ship 30 for 30, I don't know the price, but around $800 to $1,000 maybe. And then PGA is more expensive. We don't need to get into the exact price for that. But that's awesome. I didn't realize you were doing that, so that's cool to hear.
Well, that means that we need to do more marketing.
Yeah, I'm glad Ship 30 is coming back as a cohort. I don't. This isn't a question, but I feel like it's one of the best or most well known cohort based courses, and just like the concept or idea of it is so damn good. And like I'm glad it's like still have like 30-day writing challenge where you publish 30 pieces of content every day for 30 days. Maybe it's not exactly like that, but that's kind of basically what it seems like
Yeah,
or what
that's the
I've
premise.
heard. Yeah, and it's just such a great premise, and I frankly think more people should just copy that, but for different things. Like I haven't seen enough people do that. Like I've seen this name's a little bit on the nose, but Cut 30. Alex Garcia created the program about helping people publish 30 pieces of short form like
Mhm.
video content, Instagram Reels, stories, stuff like that, or TikTok stuff like that. And people get great results with that. Similar idea. I'm sure it could be replicated in other areas too.
I mean, 75 hard. I think it's kind of a longer and like a slightly different variation of that, but like that challenge has become extremely popular and viral over the past few years, and like it's essentially the same thing, like help people do one or a handful of important high leverage things that they usually procrastinate or struggle with, for a set period of time, help them build that habit, and there it is.
Yeah, challenges. People who sell information and coaching and education just don't do enough challenges. Challenges are so
Mhm.
powerful because really half the battle with education is getting people to actually do the thing, and a challenge helps people overcome past procrastination, do the thing, build a habit, all that stuff. Like the learning is important, knowledge transfer, tactics, systems, all that's super valuable. But if you can't get people to actually execute, it doesn't really matter how much information you give them. And so I love Shift 30 for 30. I love challenges. I also think 30 days is the perfect time frame for most people.
I
Like
agree.
if you have a cohort based course for 75 days and people are showing up
That's
like
long.
once a week, twice a week for 75, yeah, I wouldn't want to participate as a student. Wouldn't want to deliver it as an instructor either. But 3 to 4 weeks is the sweet spot.
I agree. I would agree with that. It also changes the dynamics of like the offer itself, because that would almost become like a, you're probably better off just delivering that as a high, like an evergreen high ticket coaching program or something along those lines versus just a cohort.
Absolutely. So I imagine you don't have to share this stuff, but like I imagine PGA is still the bigger part of the business right now, like bigger.
Right now, yes, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell us about. I don't know. There's so much we could dig into. Let's just maybe focus on PGA because you kind of just relaunched Shift 30 as a cohort
Mhm.
this month. Actually, let's start with that. Like, this has been like kind of a different product for like a year. It was an evergreen program. Now it's back
Mhm.
to a cohort program. Like, how did you relaunch it to the audience and have a successful cohort launch?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's been really, and I can walk you through kind of our regular launch playbook, because that was still the foundation. I think the bigger nuance or variable was just the fact that this used to be a cohort thing, then it was self-paced, and then it was it's a cohort now again. And so we had to kind of, well, first let people know and kind of get them excited to do the program in this original format, but also educate them on why the format was cooler than the doing the self-paced version. But let's start, maybe because I think it's gonna tie it all together. Let's start with the kind of the regular playbook. So whenever we're launching a product, we typically have a open close cart kind of flow. So there is like a set period of time where people can enroll. In theory, for this specific product for the cohort, you could have joined as soon as we announced that the cohort format was back. But the reality, we all here know as marketers that people need to have urgency to take action. So really, most of the action came closer to the beginning of the cohort, because that's when the actual launch was happening. But so the real launch was 7 days long. So it ended on Sunday, on Sunday, this past Sunday, the 13th, and it started the previous Monday, which was the 7th. And it was different pieces there, but the main piece was a launch sequence. So we normally have like an entire launch sequence, daily marketing emails to the majority of our list, except obviously there's always segmentation nuances, but like the majority of our list for that vertical. Now, in addition to that daily launch email that we send to everyone on the list every morning, we also have a couple additional sequences and emails. And so one of them is we call it the objection handling sequence. And so if in the morning we're sending the launch emails to everyone, then in the afternoon we normally send a very kind of focused and very intentional objection handling email to all of our clickers. And by clickers, I mean anyone who has clicked on our landing page at the very least once and they haven't bought. And so because that obviously shows and signals intent. And so where the whole premise here is like, usually you make more money when you send more emails. And then kind of the more refined version of that is you make even more money if you send the right emails or more emails to the right people. And so our whole mindset is how can we identify those people who are, on the fence, who are very interested, but have some sort of education gap, so we can fill that education gap for them and help them take action. And so throughout that entire 7-day period, we also have those objection handling emails that we're sending each afternoon. And then on the background, lastly, this is the last piece, we have an automated abandoned cart sequence. So this is also for clickers, but this is specifically for clickers who have, or for people who have clicked more than once. So they have to have clicked at the very least twice to get into this abandoned cart sequence. And so what happens is the moment somebody has clicked more than twice, the system waits a couple hours to see if they're still, if they have bought or not. And if they haven't, they kind of proceed to be added to the sequence. And so the first email is us just trying, like basically asking them a question of, hey, we noticed you've been kind of checking out our sales page. We want to make sure you have all the information you need to make like the right decision and the right investment for yourself. Would you mind clicking one of these links to let us know what's keeping you on the fence? And then we gather that data, and then based on the option that people click on, then we have another automated email following up and kind of dismantling and addressing that specific objection that they chose. And so, as you can see, we're trying to kind of tackle all of the objections across different ways. But yeah, I just threw a lot at you too.
No, I understand that. I might break it down just so the audience. I think you explained it perfectly. I think it's very smart. Are you still using ConvertKit for your email
Yes.
automation system? Okay, so all of ConvertKit and anything else you're using to like connect things, or just ConvertKit?
Mainly ConvertKit. Sometimes when like there's things that happen outside of ConvertKit, we might use Zapier to like send like stuff from our checkout page back to ConvertKit, but it's usually mostly ConvertKit.
Awesome. So just to recap real quick, I think people get this, but let's say around one email every day to the whole list, or to the segment you're marketing to, the large segment, every day for 7 days. People who click the sales page once get an objection handling email, right? Is that the word you describe it? In the afternoons, people who click multiple times go into the abandoned cart sequence, and you have that really clever, question about what the objection is, and then you have emails that address the objection. So yeah, I think it sounds like a lot to people, but like it's not rocket science. It's it's over a 7-day period, and this is how you sell a lot over email. And so if you want to sell a lot, this is what you need to do.
The other thing, just to double click on that real quick, is that there's levels to it, right? Like we didn't just start posting on content one day, and then the next day we created our ConvertKit account and we started using all of these advanced different sequences. It's been kind of a progressive journey where every time we launch something, we're looking for, okay, what could we do better next time? And so progressively, with after running all of these different experiments, we have found kind of this ideal playbook that, and we continue to iterate on it. Like every time we launch, we try to do a little postmortem, reflect on what we did, and see if there's any improvements. And there's always improvements. But just to again kind of address that, you can just find or identify one of the little things that I shared instead of trying to execute the whole playbook at once. Just find one of the nuggets that I share and try to do that for your next launch.
Yeah, it's got to be one step at a time, and especially if you're doing launches, like every launch you can add a little bit more, but it might start where you only do 5 emails over a 7-day period, and like that's But that's how I started. That's a great place to start. And you can still be
Yeah.
successful and you just layer on more, like you mentioned. Can we talk about some funnels that are working for PGA? Like, is there any like 80/20 where it's like these funnels have just crushed it consistently and most of the customer generation came through this method? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I'll give you kind of the, and I'll promise to keep this one short. I'll give you kind of the like very high level breakdown of how the funnel works from an email perspective, and then we can double click and like dig into some of the more specific ones. But high level, what we do is most of our social traffic, we send it to an educational email course, which is essentially a lead magnet that happens across 5 days, all via email. After somebody goes through that entire email course sequence, then they get added to a sales sequence that tries to capitalize. We nurture all of those people for long period of time, a lot of education, a lot of value. So we try to just capitalize on that momentum that we built with a handful of sales emails. Then after the sales email, and sorry if there's some background noise, my dog's a little bit
That's okay. We're here to get tap fees. People don't.
yes. So after that sales sequence, we add everyone to our newsletter. We currently run a daily newsletter. Kind of the TLDR of that, the strategy there is we have three types of kind of emails, not necessarily formats, but like we think about them as email types. And so we call them the value email, the indirect email, and the direct email. And you can, by the name, you can kind of infer what each of those mean. But so what we do is we rotate each of those emails based on what's happening on the calendar and based on how many discovery calls we need to book on any given day or any given week. Because, and I guess that's an important nuance that I should have clarified earlier. The whole point of this funnel, the way the funnel works, is we get somebody's email address, then we want them to apply to join our program. After they apply, if they qualify, we can have a discovery call with them, and then if everything works out for them, we can show them how to enroll and join the program. And so,
Yeah, the web
yeah,
funnel is more of a classic call funnel. You apply if you're
yes,
qualified. You're asked to schedule a
correct.
call. You
Yeah.
sell on the call and through follow ups after that. But the email funnel is all the stuff that you described gets them to the call funnel or book a call funnel, however
Correct.
people call it. Can you explain what value email,
Yes.
indirect email, direct email? Can you break that out for us?
Yes. Yes. So those are the three types of newsletters that we normally send on any given week. And so the easy way to think about it is a value email is just 99, if not 100% education. You're not you're not making an ask, and if you are, you're doing that at the very end in a very subtle and like classy way. The goal there is to just nurture people and kind of fill in any educational gaps that they might need to like then make an informed buying decision. The indirect emails are they're still educational. They're just educational in a different way, because we normally use those emails to show the reader what's possible. Like oftentimes it's kind of similar to what you were sharing earlier. Of sometimes the problem is in information. The information is out there. Sometimes is people taking action, and a big part for people to take action is just their mindset, right? Like, and also believing that things are possible. And so what we do with these indirect emails is we still share education and share some free value, but it's usually around some sort of limiting belief, or we also kind of use those emails to share success stories and case studies and show people what's possible to accomplish if you kind of follow our methodology and you actually take action on it. Now, the other distinction there is that there is a more prominent CTA, and that's why we also call them indirect. So instead of just having the CTA at the very end, maybe as a PS, there's like an actual section where we plug that CTA and try to get people to take action. And then lastly, we have the direct emails, which are short and sweet. Hey, I noticed are you still interested in doing X, Y, and Z? If so, this is the next step for you. We'll be more than happy to help you. That kind of thing. Just,
Yeah.
I love this Hermosi thing of people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. And so, sometimes, not to say that you shouldn't educate your audience, but like sometimes back to your point too, like people don't need more information. They just need to be reminded that there's an action that they could be taking if they wanted to.
I love that framework. I haven't heard that before. And those you alternate those based off of your sales team's calendar. So if like they're
Yep.
totally booked out, you're gonna send a value email. If you need more calls,
Correct.
you're sending a direct email. Just varies based off of that. Is that 7 days a week?
Yes, 7 days a week. At this point, we have kind of a set schedule, but it took us like 6 to 12 months worth of data to like actually make that decision the day before. And it was, as you can imagine, extremely stressful because like, oh, okay, I have 4 hours or less to like prep tomorrow's email based on what's happening in the calendar. And it was very annoying. I'm not going to lie. But now with all of that data that we had for the first 6 to 12 months, now we have there's patterns, and obviously there's days where we send the email that we shouldn't have sent there, or at least not the optimal email. But for the most part, we have a very kind of dial-in flow based on all the data that we've been gathering.
And I imagine you have maybe more batched content or kind of like a backlog
Correct.
that you can use. So it's
Yeah.
not like every day you're like, oh shit, what am I going to write? And you just
At
go
this
to
point, yeah.
scratch.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to nerd out on it, I can give you the TLDR. So basically, once a week, I review all the emails that we're sending in the upcoming week. So we have an email ghostwriter inside of it as part of our team, and so they are like right now they're working on next week's emails, and so next Monday I review and QC all of those emails, and then I approve them, and then we can schedule them for the upcoming week. And so that's kind of the workflow.
Yeah, and they'll write some that are in each of those buckets. So
Yes.
and you can kind of use them as needed. Amazing.
Mhm.
I have one more question if you have time.
Sure, let's do it.
A little bit. And this may not even be relevant, but I think, what have you learned from Hermosi? Because I believe Dickie and Cole have talked about like going to the Hermosi workshops. And have you been to some of those too, or at least maybe got some lessons afterwards?
Yeah, I haven't for that one specifically I didn't attend live, but I was in Vegas with them when they attended. So I can definitely share a couple learnings. So first, and
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear if this has been true for you as well. But after attending all of these different events over the past 2 or 3 years, like the biggest thing for me has been just it's been a reminder that most of these people that you look up to and are way more successful than you are usually not 10 times smarter than you are. It's usually like they have just been playing the game for longer. Like that's in the majority of the cases, which again is not necessarily very tactical, but I find very empowering and very like reassuring. It's like, oh, I mean, if I just keep at it, I might be in the same place or in a similar position as them, which is again reassuring.
That's my biggest takeaway from, especially when I was younger a couple years ago. That's the biggest value of attending events of really any type is exactly what you described, and so that's why everybody should go to some type of industry event at least once a year, is just to experience that. Yeah, it's like they've just been doing it longer, they're more focused. And sometimes maybe they're less smart, but that has allowed them
That's a blessing.
to act more confidently in like directly and move faster. Whereas, maybe you're smart, maybe you're not, but like you overthink things and don't take action. Whereas the people you look up to do in some ways. So I 100% agree.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's been a big one. And then like along the same lines, there is also value in having like a lot of value, I would say, in having someone else look at your business and kind of help you basically find your blind spots. Because sometimes you're in your business, you're in the trenches, in the weeds every single day, and it's hard to zoom out and like from a high level see what's not working. And so just having an outside perspective from someone who's done the thing that you want to do, I think it's really, really powerful and valuable.
Absolutely. I think people kind of overlook coaches. And the key part is done the thing that you want to do. You can get some coaches who may not give good advice if they haven't had experience in exactly what you're doing. But if you find that coach, you're in a great spot. So that's awesome. Where can people find you online? Like LinkedIn will be linked below. Any links you mentioned now will be linked below. Where's the best place for people to go?
Well, since we went deep on the viral giveaways, I'll be more than happy to share a few prompts that I've put together to help people brainstorm giveaways and like lead magnet ideas. So happy to share that. But other than that, really LinkedIn is kind of the place to find me. That's where I'm most active right now. And usually whenever I have like something something new happening, whether it's a new resource, a new program, whatever it is, I usually announce it there. So
Yeah, and then how do you pronounce your last name? Like your full name, just so people can search you on LinkedIn if they don't want to click the link below.
yeah, Bustamante. So B as in boy, Ustamante.
Okay, I knew it. I thought I had it wrong, but I actually got it. I got it right. But okay, thanks for doing this. And then also, Danny, you're going to be at our event called Audience Camp that's happening September 5th. So if you want to learn more about that, we'll put that below as well.
Super pumped, and I'm definitely gonna be sharing that again on my newsletter soon.
Awesome. I appreciate it. All right, this is great.